Greetings and salutations, fans and family, friends and neighbors, lovers and losers of all kinds. I'm Admiral Oliver Franklin Doom, and I would like to welcome you to Just an Observation. For today's observation, I want to go to sci-fi. Now, sci-fi and radio would have been thought to be the perfect match. Unfortunately, it really didn't catch on as much as one would think. There were two series that stood out. One was called Dimension X, and a few years later, there was X-1. And a lot of the Dimension X scripts were used in X-1. X-1 was basically a sequel or a reboot of Dimension X. And Dimension X and X-1 did sci-fi very, very well.
Countdown for blast off. X-5, 4, 3, 2, X-1, fire. From the far horizons of the unknown come transcribed tales of new dimensions in time and space. These are stories of the future, adventures in which you'll live in a million, could be years, on 1,000 maybe worlds. The National Broadcasting Company, in cooperation with Galaxy Science Fiction Magazine, presents
X minus 1.
Today's focus episode is called A Pail of Air. Now, when I first heard this episode, I had to have it, and I have played it and played it and played it, and I can almost quote it verbatim. But I loved this episode, and I loved the story, and I'm going to let the introduction speak for itself.
tonight's story, A Pail of Air, by Fritz Leiber.
It was pretty quiet in the nest. Pa was just sitting by the fire, staring into it like he does these days. And Ma was asleep. That's why it was so quiet. Ma has some pretty bad times when she just screams and huddles back against the blankets that line the nest. Sis was looking at herself in the mirror that hangs next to the bookshelf. I don't know what she finds to look at so long, but then she's a girl. She just looks at herself. Saturdays, when Pa puts a couple of extra lumps of coal on the fire and we take a bath, she looks at herself in the mirror and sometimes she cries.
This next clip is going to give you a little background as to what is going on in this story.
Oh.
Pa, the pail's running low.
Bud, you better get into your things and go out and get an extra pail of air.
There are a couple of pails behind the first blankets.
Go on, get into your things.
It isn't back, is it?
No, it isn't.
There's no sun in the sky. No sun, is there? No, Ma. What was it like? The sun.
Sis, don't get your ma upset.
The sun was yellow, and so bright you couldn't look at it. Burning hot, so hot. But when you stretched out in it, made you feel warm all over. Tingly warm. It's been so long since I've been that warm.
I was warm last year on my birthday when Pa put all that extra coal on.
And then every morning it would come out of the east, make the clouds all pink and yellow. And the mist would rise in the ground, and then slowly everything would glow warmer, warmer. And then it would be up there in the sky, shining, warm.
Hurry up, Bud.
I'm almost ready, Pa.
I want the sun. I want the sun.
I went through the 30 or so blankets that Pa hung up to slow down the air escaping from the nest. Of course, I knew the way. I've been going out for air since I was a kid. Still, I get a funny, crawly feeling every time I go out of the nest. You gotta go up to the 5th floor, which is just above the blanket of frozen air. You see, when the earth got cold, all the water in the air froze first and made a blanket about 10 feet thick or so. And then down on top of that dropped all the crystals of frozen air, making another blanket 60 or 70 feet thick. I came out of the window we use on the 5th floor and started to scoop up the air into my pail. I had it about full. Boy, my fingers are getting pretty cold when I saw something. Hey, that's a light. Oh, darn it, I kicked over the bucket. Oh, there can't be a light. Not moving around in a window like that. There can't be. Ma and Pa and Sis are back in the nest. I'm up here, and there can't be anyone else. Everybody on Earth is dead except us. It's funny. When I go out alone, I'm not scared or anything. But when I go out with Pa, I always hang on to his belt like I used to when I was a little kid. Habit, I guess. It's the same no matter what trip we take. On the 5th floor, we stopped to rest just before we went out. We were in the room with the frozen people. The lady sitting looking at the door. The man holding his hands over that funny metal thing Pa calls a radiator. It was like a fire, I guess, but I don't see any place for the coal. We put our helmets together so we could talk.
Catch your breath, son.
Pa, would it be possible... for any of the frozen people to come to life? Like the ones down in the basement around the furnace when we go for water?
No, they're dead. They were caught too quickly when it happened.
Oh, Pa, how do we know we're the only ones?
We don't, but... Well, there's a feeling you get. Because it's always night. There used to be some of that feeling every night in the old days. But the sun chased it away every morning. You wouldn't know about that. You weren't born when the dark star pulled us away from the sun. You wouldn't know unless you'd seen the sun.
I've seen the sun. It's that big star at the end of the Big Dipper. I've seen it.
It isn't the same. Come on. We're wasting time.
I always liked the story. Of course, Sis and I know it by heart by now. Every Sunday since we were kids. But every once in a while, Pa surprises us by telling it a little different. Or throwing in some extras. It starts out with a song. Ma used to sing it, but she forgets the words sometimes. And now Pa sings it mostly.
Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, thy purple mountain majesties above the fruited plain.
Of course, the words don't mean anything. The skies are spacious enough, but there aren't any waves of grain, and the plain is all covered with a blanket of frozen air. But it's part of the story ceremony, and Pa likes it. He says it reminds him of the old days. After the song, Pa starts the story.
In the days of my youth, the sun hung above, golden and warm, and the earth was fruitful and multiplied, and the fields were green, and the day was glorious, and the wind blew across the hilltops, and air was free and good to breathe.
That's the part of the story I like best. About how it was with the sun nice and warm. It's hard to believe, all those people living without having to worry about cold and air. Never waking up sweating and screaming because you dreamed the fire went out. It's impossible to believe, but Pa was a good storyteller, and he made it seem real.
And then the dark star came rushing out of space. In the beginning, they tried to keep the news from the people, but when the floods and the earthquake started, the truth came out. At first, they thought the dark star would hit the sun. And then they were afraid it would strike the earth itself. But it didn't. It only came close.
Pa Pa tells it like the sun and the dark star fought for the earth like two dogs over a bone. I know what he means because I've seen a picture of a dog in a magazine. And then the dark star won and carried us off. But the sun kept the moon. Pa, I hear...
I know.
What is it, Alfred? What is it? What's going on? Oh, you've got to tell me. Pa, I'm scared.
Quiet. Bud, you heard it?
Uh-huh. Kind of shuffling. Coming toward the nest.
Sis, take care of your mother.
It's all right, Ma. Lie down. Come on.
I'll take the hammer. You take the hatchet.
What is it, Pa? What is it?
I don't know. Listen.
It's closer.
Mush.
Pa, the blanket is moving.
Ready with your axe.
Hello? Who's there? Is there somebody in there?
Come in. It's all right.
They're alive. Alive.
Who are you?
Alfred Hutchinson. Dr. Alfred Hutchinson. You can take off your helmets in here.
But the air.
We have air.
We bring it in pails.
Come on, Ralph. Let's take off our helmets.
It's impossible.
Oh, where are you from? We thought we were the only ones.
Los Alamos.
The nuclear laboratory.
Yes, that's right. We get our power from the reactor, using the stockpile of bombs for fuel.
Then there are others. There are other men. There are other men.
Pa, is it all right? Should I put the axe down?
Yes, it's all right. You can put it down.
You mean you come from another nest?
It's a little bigger than this. We've got a small airtight city with airlocks.
We generate our electricity, food from hydroponics.
I can't believe it.
And that is our brief look at X-1, A Pail of Air. Now, I'm hoping you found this enjoyable, and I hope that if you did, you'll follow up with the follow-up episode that I'll post later with the complete radio broadcast. This has been Just an Observation, and I'm your host, Admiral Oliver Franklin Doom. And remember, folks, always live life as if awesome is a downgrade.